We all know the Netherlands, relaxed, easygoing, soldiers with long hair, legalized pot, legalized hookers, smoking pot, but sometimes even the Dutch have to draw a line. A teenage farm boy on a tractor? Let's take that sucker down. Open fire.
So what you're about to see is that
Nee joh, hey, wapens jongen,
the farmer's
wapens!
gonna get shot.
Hey, Wallah, rij
And he
weg
did get
jongen, rij weg!
shot.
Wapens is
They're
dat!
saying that he's 16 years old. So this was attempted murder, essentially. There was no excuse, and not punishing it is saying that the actions that the police officer took was justified if you don't prosecute it. That's what you're insinuating. That's not even what you're insinuating. That is literally what you are allowing to happen. You are saying if this happens again, it is legal. You, as the lawmakers, the politicians, are allowing this. Well, not really the politicians. Who makes up the laws? Whatever. I have no expertise in this. I'm sorry. But you get what I'm saying. It's impunity. If you allow impunity, it's just going to get worse. You can't, if you don't see this as a problem, if you don't see someone pointing a weapon and shooting you, imagine getting stabbed. Would you say if someone stabbed you, why wouldn't they get punished? Like, this is crazy. He got shot. Like, what? He did literally nothing wrong. It's so ridiculous that it's hard to swallow. It's literally hard to swallow, to understand someone got shot. Well, it's common in dictatorships, fascism. We used to burn books. They used to burn books. They used to kill journalists. Anyone who opposed them, shot them. Nobody thought anything of it. But you live in a, so say, democratic nation. There should be uproar about this. Someone was almost killed. It's so hard to comprehend. I'm trying to put this in a way that will make the impunity stop, but I can't think of anything. Maybe this is why it's so hard to speak up. What I'm saying is the officers should be persecuted. Absolutely. And it should be completely... Every other cop who is guilty of it should also be persecuted. I think that's logic. You shouldn't not allow that to happen. Imagine what a politician would do. Imagine the uproar of a politician who gets shot by a police officer. Imagine what would happen. Imagine how laws would quickly change. I don't know if they would change, but 100% the officer would not have it easy, like at all. And it'll be public, it'll be on the news, it'll be everywhere. Here, it's just slid under the radar. Just slid under the radar. It's crazy. Imagine if you shot the prime minister because he was protesting. Imagine if a prime minister went undercover and dressed up as an ordinary civilian and he got shot. Imagine what would happen. It'd be crazier if the prime minister would get scapegoated and said he shouldn't be at that protest if he didn't want to die. That would be funny. I totally believe that because crazier stuff has happened in regards to just completely invalidating someone, which with just a rhetorical answer.
Explain briefly to your viewers what's happening here. The Dutch farmers are out protesting on the street because our government has pushed a law, a nitrogen law, that is basically going to put a lot of these farmers out of business. They have to cut their livestock by 30% before the end of 2030. And well, like I said, then that land goes to the state. So the state is stealing our farmers' land, and the farmers are obviously not having it. I mean, if the state would come into my house and would say, I'm going to take 30% of everything that you have ever worked for, I wouldn't be happy either. But as you saw, the state doesn't respond very well to these farmers protesting, and even have used violence and even shot at a 16-year-old boy that you saw driving away from the protest. So things are getting pretty ugly over here.
Why are they responding in this way, and why are they picking this fight now at a time when there are huge disruptions in the food supply chain around the world?
Because it's not really about a nitrogen crisis for our government. We even had a report come out, a state report, stating that the new regulations are way too harsh on the farmer, even for the nitrogen goal, quote unquote, that they're trying to reach. So there has to be an ulterior motive. And they're not so secretive, actually, about what their ulterior motive is. We've seen in other state documentation that they need the land for housing. And for who do they need these housings? Well, for new immigrants coming to the country. So that's one. And then another theory that obviously we have is that this is a global agenda. It's the 2030 agenda. It's the Great Reset. And farmers are, of course, a really independent group that stand in the way of that. So it's this globalist institutions that are.
Now she goes into a little bit of a tangent here, but what basically she's saying is that with the cutout supply with Ukraine and Russia, because you can't really support the war by taking in, things from Russia, and you can't really expect things from Ukraine because they're undergoing a serious crisis right now. And what they say about the immigrants, I truly believe so, because the Dutch, from what I remember, they're having a crisis with children. They're now repopulating. And I think that's going to be... And I think politicians, because I've heard politicians wasn't Netherlands the one that said, oh, we'll pay you to get married, but Dutchmen didn't really want to deal with that. Because, I don't know, something, I forgot it was social, or because many females were feminists or something like that. Maybe too aggressive. I don't remember, but I remember them getting paid. And they could just use immigrants as a way of getting either cheap labor and a way of repopulating Netherlands. And I think that's exactly what they're going for. And she goes about globalization, that a friend of a person who worked onto pushing this new bill, because in truth, how are they expecting to cut out, the nitrogen if they have to cut out businesses? Where is the supply going to come from? And she says it's going to come from a company that Bill Gates just recently dumped more than $500 million in it. And that's going to supply, that's going to be the future of Dutch. This was, the public didn't choose this. It's not capitalism. You know what I mean? It was forced to do it. And it's not like they were going to a crisis of nitrogen. Because from what I understand, most of the pollution doesn't come from these small farms. The ones that are suffering the most are the small farms. They're not going to be like those industrious companies the ones that are mining oil. So I don't really find this necessary, as he points that out. And I do see like Netherlands going into, well, there's already talk about famine all over the world. Imagine if you were from Dutch. So, some of you are going to be from Dutch. What do you think about this? How would you describe your food literally being cut from you?